Well, it's no wonder that within the past 2 years or so, we had this giant resurgence in the 80s synth electronica type of a music. So I'm not surprised that Jean-Michel Jarre is back on the scene with some pretty great music. Equinoxe Infinity by Jean-Michel Jarre. So Jean-Michel Jarre, who I used to be calling Jean-Michel Jarre, it's the French-Canadian in me. I'm not even French-Canadian, but the French composer of electronical music got his really big claim to fame in the late 70s, pioneering a lot of that electronica type of music. This was the same kind of wave that brought us like Tangerine Dream and Tamada. That style of using the synthesizers, using the keyboards, using electronica in such a strange and unique way of structuring music. And I love Jean-Michel Jarre. I was introduced to him through my dad, who had his Oxygen series, and then in 2016 he dropped Oxygen 3, which made me go back and find Oxygen 2. And Oxygen 3 came out for the 40th anniversary. We have the same thing here. Equinoxe, the original, was released in 1978, and so we find in 2018 we have the continuation of the Equinoxe series. It follows very, very similar to where Equinoxe left off, and in that sense it also follows very similarly to where Oxygen left off. I mean, in my mind, there's not a whole lot of difference tonally and structurally between Oxygen and Equinoxe. They both had that very emphasis on atmosphere, very electronic, synth driven, and also both were like technically like one piece that was kind of broken up into different movements that flowed directly from one to the other. But I really, really enjoyed Equinoxe probably just as much as Oxygen. I know Oxygen got a little bit more attention just because it came out first and really set the stage, and because Equinoxe didn't really change up the sound all that much, it just kind of expanded on it. I could feel like Equinoxe didn't really get a lot of the same dues that Oxygen did, even though in some respects Equinoxe is a little bit more of a solid album overall, because Jean-Michel was able to kind of learn from what he was doing within Oxygen and then take it even forward. So we're kind of getting into the same thing here within Equinoxe Infinity. It's that same kind of thing that Oxygen Part 3 had. And it does kind of seem like it's a continuation from that. Much like Oxygen 3, even though we've had 40 years between the initial release and the follow-up. Well, I guess with Oxygen, we had Part 2 in the 90s, but now we have like such a strong continuation of music, and it feels very fresh as well. Maybe it's just within the climate that we find ourselves in. A lot of bands are trying the synth wave, electronic wave, and like this is the kind of electronic music that I love. Like I remember when I was talking about like my Muse review, they were fraternizing with the synth wave that I didn't quite attune to. This is the stuff that I really, really like. It's more atmospheric, it's more dark, it's got that layer upon layer of moods that we have within there. Like this is a very like almost like an abstract art painting or an impressionistic painting, where the more you bring to it, the more you get out of it within the different layerings, within the different sounds. And part of that has an inherent interesting facet about this music, because no real point stands out and no real point is like diminished or kind of hidden. Each of the movements on here kind of flow right into the next piece, so that it's one unique feeling of music. And listening to this, I'm getting a lot of throwbacks from the 70s, probably more so than I did with Oxygen 3, because like probably with Robots Don't Cry, we get that signature Jean-Michel Jarre tone, where it's that like it's got that like strange kind of interlay within the rhythm section of that, and that was mastered way back when. And we still have like this really heavy dance movements that we have on here that's probably modernizing a lot of this. Infinity, the 6th track, and probably like the mid movement on here, has that really big almost rave club feel within it, with that Like, there's a lot of moments on here that are very club-esque in that sense, and that's more of like the modernizing without sacrificing the essence of the track as well. And then finally, and the last piece I want to talk about is the last one of Equinox Infinity, the title track. And that's another thing that I do want to point out. Instead of just having like movement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, they actually name the pieces here, so it's a little bit easier to kind of talk about and get into what the music is kind of reflecting in that same sense. But yeah, the Equinox Infinity reminds me of that what was captured on, say, like Blade Runner 2049, that soundtrack, where it was very dark, very heavy, without sacrificing this air of atmosphere. So very, very well done in that sense. So overall, I've really been loving this piece from Jean-Michel Jarre. It came out at just the right time. This was what I've been craving with all these bands that are trying that 80s throwback, but finally, a person that's been through the 80s and was producing music through that era is able to show what can be done with this style of music. So I've been loving this. This is one that I would easily say download. Have it on your computer, because it's odd. Like, I want to say pick it up in physical format and put it on vinyl, but I almost feel like this was meant to be listened to through an electronical device. It adds to that essence of a listening experience. Even though, you know, I'm a vinyl diehard, no. Listen to this through some kind of an electronical device, because that's really kind of where this was meant to be listened to. So that's about it for Equinox Infinity by Jean-Michel Jarre. What did you guys think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. And if this goes to anything, I'm guessing we're going to get Zuluk in 2024. One can hope. But that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.